introduce Jim Bregman, who is the leader of the Jim Bregman Invites You To series. Jim, in 1964, was the Olympic bronze medalist in judo. In 65, at the World Championships, was the bronze medalist. Is one of the half dozen founding fathers of the U.S. Judo Association. He has been actively involved at one level or other over many years in judo. And now let me introduce Jim Bregman.
Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce one of my favorite judoka, Mr. Jimmy Pedro. Jimmy participated in the 92, 96, and 2000 Olympic Games, winning a bronze medal in 96 and 04. So he's got 2 bronze medals and I've got 2 bronze medals. However, he distinguished himself greatly by becoming a world champion gold medalist. So he has at least 3 very top medals. In addition to that, he has a mere 29 gold medals in other international competitions. So when it comes to competitive activity, he knows firsthand what it takes to be at the very highest levels of judo. But in addition to that, he also knows what it takes to be a successful dojo leader and a successful judo coach and teacher. So with that introduction, I'll introduce a distinguished Olympian, Jimmy Pedro. Jimmy, welcome
you, Jim.
to the program. Yeah,
it's good to see you.
I guess we'd like to start with asking you about your perception of the state of American Judo today. This has been a theme of several of our discussions, and you have a unique perspective on it, and I think people would really enjoy hearing it.
Yeah, I think I'm fortunate in that I've been a member of, high level judo back when I think judo was thriving, back in the day. So I think judo hit its peak in the United States somewhere in the 70s and 80s, maybe early 80s. It was at its peak of, when the Olympics was in Los Angeles and judo clubs. I remember being a little boy going to the high school national championships or the collegiate national championships, and even watching the women's first world championships here in America, which was in New York. I remember watching that event. And I just remember thousands of people, at events. And I remember judo on television. A lot of the old TV shows, whether it was the Flintstones or it was, a Hollywood movie, there was always references to judo. And I felt like at that time, judo was one of the main martial arts in this country, right? It was the most recognized. It was one of the most famous. Like, not everybody knew and heard of judo quite often. That was way before the Karate Kid came along. It was way before all these Taekwondo dojos opened up, and now all these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools have opened up. Judo was, back in that day, it was the main martial art, in my opinion. At least that's what I remember growing up as a kid. And having the Olympics in LA certainly helped, and having some medals in the Olympics obviously helped, and felt like the sport was thriving. And at the same time, there were a lot of people that were involved in the sport for various reasons. And yes, back then we still had the JA and the JF, and we had US Judo Inc. as the Olympic entity. But the people were really involved in the sport. We had state leaders and we had state people that ran, local championships, and they felt important, and they came to the board meetings and they heard everything that was going on with the state of American Judo. They participated. There were lots of passionate people. And I remember at the time, it was all about what can this organization do to help athletes? Back when Frank Fullerton was running the USJI, it felt like there was lots of energy in the room. Sure, there was discussion. There was always been, debates and arguments on either side of what's right and what's wrong. But it felt like there was a lot of people that had knowledge about what was going on and what direction the sport was going in. And it seemed like, the organization was thriving back then. We certainly had very competitive teams. We always put out junior world medalists. We always put out senior world medalists. We were winning Olympic medals, every Olympics. But now today it seems like nobody knows what's going on. It's very fragmented. And, especially in this day and age, in this era, it seems like it would be easier to get information out to people, right? Because you don't have to be there. You can kinds of kids and digital and share. I feel like now there's a disconnect about what's going on, who's doing what. And I feel like the state of American Judo, we're in no doubt we're in dire straits as a sport. And the reason why I say that we're in dire straits is because we have a lot of things going against us, right? The sport isn't as popular. There are dozens of other martial arts that are thriving and we aren't. We're at stake now because we're not producing senior world medals, senior Olympic medals, or we're not tracking to produce those medals. We're in fear of losing the only revenue we have, which is from the Olympic Committee, right? So all of the operating budget for United States Judo comes from our U.S. Olympic Committee, and that's based on performance. They invest in sports that are tracking to win medals. And if you don't track to win a medal, your budgets get cut. And right now, the only operating budget we have is from that Olympic Committee. So if we don't produce a medal here at this games, we're going to get even less money next time, and that's going to steadily go down. Obviously, everybody's suffering from COVID, right? So there's no blame on anybody. That's beyond everybody's control, but it's a factor in the equation. We are hurting, right? I can imagine that USA Judo, USJ, and USJF are struggling because a lot of their operating budget comes from memberships. And right now, people don't have a reason to join a dojo. They can't train at a dojo. They can't go compete anywhere. So why would they renew a membership when they're training at home? So it's got to be that's a devastating blow to everybody. So now there's less money coming in to cover just overhead and expenses. At the same time, because we're not tracking at the senior level to win medals, my bigger concern is that we're not tracking to win at the junior level either. Ever since I can remember, we've always had some junior win a medal at Junior World Championships. And we haven't won a Junior World medal. I don't even know when the last Junior World medal we won was. It might have been Kayla Harrison in 2009. She might have been. And so the pipeline coming up is not tracking to sort of be have a strong future team either. It's not for lack of good athletes. We've always had good athletes in this country. We've always had good judoka in this country. At least one or two guys or girls have come up. You could see the talent. That talent got developed, and then they ended up, having success on the senior level. We don't have that junior talent right now coming up through the pipeline. And at the same time, the rest of the world is getting stronger, better, and more professional. It is harder today to win medals than it was last year, than it was 4 years ago, than it was 8 years ago. It's getting more and more competitive at the world level because there's more and more money being invested in this sport by foreign countries. And we're talking countries that used to be off the grid. You're now talking Azerbaijan, Mongolia. You've got a lot of these former Soviet countries, Georgia, Israel's coming. Like there's lots of teams that are seeing success with judo, and they're investing more and more money in their sport, and they're becoming national heroes in their country, and they can make a living doing it. So, even countries that used to be great judo nations like France, on the men's side, they're suffering. They're not winning a whole lot of medals anymore, and it's because it's getting more and more competitive. And the IJF has taken it from not just professional senior level, where there's a complete tour, everybody goes on, you have to qualify for the Olympics this way, but they're bringing that tour to the juniors, and now they're bringing it to the cadets. And the rest of the world has a full-time staff that's working with seniors, juniors, and cadets. And we don't have that luxury because we don't have the money to do it. So our athletes are really up against big odds trying to overcome that with no money, no professional program, no real development program put in place for them. We're talking about at the early stages. We're not talking about the seniors. Even the juniors need the right pipeline, or we're not gonna thrive in the end. But really the success of judo is dependent on how you want to define success. Because there's all different levels of success. We thought that we needed to win a gold medal in the Olympics and that would fix our sport, right? That would help. It would bring attention to judo. Everybody's going to know about judo and everybody will join judo if we produce an Olympic medal, Olympic champion. And I remember when Marius Visser first became the IGF president, it was the 2009 World Championships where he had just taken office. And I said to him at that meeting, I said, Mr. Visser, what can we do in America to help this sport become successful? And we had just come off of World Championships where I think our team only won 2 matches at the 2009 Worlds. We brought 28 people to the event. It was the first time I was the head coach of the national team. It was the first time you got to bring 2 athletes to a World Championships in every weight class from every country. And we were allowed to send a full team, so the federation decided to send a full team. Well, we got slaughtered. We won 2 matches or 3 matches max out of 28 people. So that means we had 28 losses and 3 wins. And I remember saying to Mr. Visser at the time, what can we do from America to help you? And he said, I need you to help me produce a champion. I need an American champion that we can get behind that can be the face of the sport. And that was 2009. Fast forward 1 year later, 2010, Kayla Harrison became world champion at the 2010 Tokyo Worlds. And I remember going up to Mr. Visser. I said, okay, you asked for a champion. We gave you a champion. Now help us. What can we do? So we thought that would fix it. And obviously we had a great run. Our athletes did amazing, right? So Marty Malloy won a bronze medal. Kayla won a gold medal. 4 years later, Kayla won a gold medal in the Olympics. Travis won a silver medal in the Olympics. Kayla did TV commercials for Liberty Mutual. The Olympic Committee promoted her as a darling. Everybody loves Kayla. She was one of those top tier 10 in the Olympic movement type of athletes, was a face to the sport, but it didn't change anything, right? It didn't fix anything. And there's a lot of reasons why it didn't, but one of the main reasons is that judo is not accessible in this country. So what I mean by accessible is we have way more sports than ever before that we have to compete with. Back in the days we were talking about 1980s, when you think about in 80s, what sports were really organized? You had football, you had baseball, you had all the main sports, but you didn't have all these periphery sports that were prevalent, lacrosse today, and there's soccer leagues, and there's softball league for girls, there's girls hockey you're up against, boys hockey starts at age 5. Like, there's so many new sports and other sports that kids can go in that are really local. It's 5 or 10 minutes from their home, boom, they can get started in that sport. Well, right now in America, in judo, even if there was 10 million people that wanted to do the sport, they're not going to drive an hour and a half to the nearest dojo just to try judo. Judo is not accessible enough. And if you think about what jiu-jitsu has done, jiu-jitsu has been a sport that has grown mainly because of marketing from mixed martial arts and the UFC. They validate jiu-jitsu every time there's a fight on TV, right? This guy's a purple belt under this Gracie, and that guy's a brown belt under Machado, and this guy's a black belt under a 10th Plan. Like they're promoting jiu-jitsu every time the UFC comes on. So they're getting free publicity. At the same time, these instructors have figured out, if I open a dojo where nobody else has one, I can get all of these people into my academy and I can make a business of it. And what they're doing is they're opening schools. That school gets to a certain point, and then one of their black belts opens another school 15, 20 minutes away. And they open a school, and then they spread. And they go into regions where they're underdeveloped. And jiu-jitsu has been really smart to grow and find their niche of where nobody is strong. And that sort of association gets ingrained in that location, and they grow their association that way. So you're seeing massive associations in jiu-jitsu right now, all under one guy, and they're allowing people to open schools as purple belts. They don't have to be a black belt. They don't have to be a world champion. They don't have to be an Olympic anything. They're just somebody that can instruct. They're a good instructor, good teacher. They're teaching a curriculum, and they have a master instructor that can promote you up to a certain rank. And that's all that people care about. They want to come get a good workout. They want to feel good about themselves, and they want to be a somebody. And jiu-jitsu's figured out how to make everybody a somebody in the sport. You know, they have white belt world champions, blue belt world champions, purple belt, all different ages, kids tournaments. Like, you go, they're not that hard of tournaments, they're not that big of tournaments, but they're really good at promoting and marketing themselves and marketing the people and making everybody feel like a somebody in that sport. And so even if somebody wanted to do judo, there's not enough clubs, there's not enough instructors. We make it way too hard to be a qualified judo instructor in this country. You know, if you think about baseball, who was your first baseball coach? Your friend's dad, right? It really, you didn't play college ball, he didn't play high school ball typically. It was some dad who knew how to organize a group of kids, taught the fundamentals, and that's his lane that he lives in. I'm a Pee Wee coach, and that's what I teach. And then if you like the sport and stay in the sport, you go to the next level, and maybe you're in junior ball, and then you go on to high school. And every step along the way, you have a different coach. And every coach knows their lane and what they're good at. So some coaches are really good at recreational teaching, making it fun. Okay, that's fine. If you're going to run a dojo and you want to focus on recreation, that's cool. Do it. Have hundreds of kids being a recreational judo instructor, introducing them to the sport, making it fun, teaching all the judo ideals, right? Teach them fitness, teach them respect, teach them confidence, teach them how to be a good person in society, build good character, and have a place of excellence. That's what a dojo should be, a place of excellence for people. You don't all have to be a champion, but everybody can think like a champion, can act like a champion, and can train like one, right? And that's how you run a successful school in this country. It's not about producing athletes and winning medals. So, and I think too much focus on judo is about performance and athletics and who has the best fighters and who wins the most medals at some tournament that doesn't matter. Most of my students at my academy don't compete. Or if they compete inside my dojo only. And why do they compete inside my dojo only? Because I can control the experience inside my dojo. I can get them in the door. I can get them out the door in 2.5, 3 hours. Everybody in the tournament gets 3 matches. Everybody feels good. Everybody learns the rules. The parents come in. They have a great experience. They leave. When you go to a local judo tournament, what happens if you bring a team to a local judo tournament? The tournament is poorly run. The kid waits for 5 hours, 6 hours to compete. The parents are sitting around doing nothing. While they're at the event, what happens? The kid gets yelled at by the referee because he doesn't have the right gi on or because he didn't bow the right way. The parents get pushed to the side and sit in the stands and shut your mouth type of attitude. And most of the time, the kid goes out on the mat, he grabs, he gets smashed. He waited 6 hours to fight. He lost in 10 seconds sometimes. And the match was over. Or he went to the tournament, he had nobody to fight. So we got to bump him up to another weight class, fight some big kid, gets hurt or feels like he got hurt, but his ego got hurt. And it's a crappy experience. So we're bringing our students, showing, oh, look how fun tournaments are when they're really miserable. So we have to start looking at the way we run events in this country, the way we treat our students, what message we're teaching these people, teaching our students. I think in order for a club to be successful in this country, it has to become professional. The instructor, if we're going to succeed in American Judo, we have to create a path for instructors to do it as a full-time business. It can no longer be a hobby, right? We can't give judo away for free. Giving judo away for free doesn't work. We should know that by now. Because if it did work, we'd have tens of millions of people doing the sport. But why can jiu-jitsu charge $250 a month for lessons? Why can Taekwondo charge, the average Taekwondo school charges $150 a month for lessons? The guy in the karate school, they don't have any accomplishments. They don't have any, name recognition. They're just some black belt that learned under some other black belt who learned under some other guy. They don't really have the credentials, but what are they doing? They're creating places of excellence. They're changing people's lives. They're giving their students and their clients what they asked for, right? When a kid comes through the door, a parent brings a child through the door, they're typically looking for a few things. My kid's getting picked on in school, and I need to make them more confident. Okay, great. We can do that. We know that if somebody stays in judo a long time, they're going to become a very confident individual. We know that. The trick is we got to teach them confidence right from day one. How to stand tall, how to look somebody in the eye, how to shake somebody's hand, how to use a strong voice. And we have to train them how to do this and teach them that this is what confidence is about, as an example. But they're looking for their kid to gain confidence. Maybe they're looking for him to just be physically fit. Kid's out of shape. I got to get him off the couch. I want to get him some exercise. I don't want to make him a world champion. I don't want him to train hard and get his crap beat out of him from day one. I just want him to feel good about himself and get some exercise. So we got to deliver that experience for that kid. You know, the other reasons why they're coming is because they need discipline or they need respect. They're being disrespectful at home. Joe, instructor, basically the community leader. People used to bring their kids to church because the church was a good place to bring your kids so he'd behave a certain way. Well, dojos are places of excellence. And that instructor needs to teach them this is a respectful place. When you come in, you'll bow. When you're on the mat, you'll behave. We're going to have fun, but there's a line you don't cross, right? And if you can start to help that child be more respectful, show more discipline, set some goals, have more confidence, become more physically fit, and you can help tie that into their behavior at home or their behavior at school, that's what these martial arts schools do. In order to get promoted to the next level, you've got to bring a form to your teacher. And she's got to sign off that says, you know, Johnny is getting promoted to his green belt in martial arts. Is there any reason why Johnny shouldn't get promoted? Please have your teacher sign here saying you've been respectful in school. Well, automatically that school says, wow, that martial arts academy is doing some good things, man. Wow, you're doing good in, you know, how's martial arts? And it's bringing awareness to their school. In exchange, the kid is being a good kid because he wants to get that next belt promotion. So the parent's happy because the kid's good in school. You know, and then you have the parent sign off on the promotion as well, where, you know, the kid's got to show that he's been, you know, making his bed at home or he's been, you know, not disrespectful to mom and dad. And you're making your place a center of excellence. So we've got to stop making the focus about sport and about winning medals and more about changing people's lives. You know, and when you do that, you can run a successful club and you can charge a premium because you are making a difference in that kid's life. And we've got to have more confidence in our sport and what we're able to deliver as a result. So, you know, I've proven that, you know, through the years that you can do both. You can have a recreational program because I've had a very recreational program now since 2005 when I first opened my dojo where it's at now. I sought out consultants. I learned all the things that I was doing wrong as a school owner and why I couldn't get past 65 students in my academy ever. And it's because I got brought up the wrong way. You know, I got brought up that judo training is an hour and a half and you train hard and, you know, it's all about the techniques that they're learning. It's nothing about the techniques. It's all about the character that you're developing in that person and whether the mom and dad thinks that it's worth the money to keep bringing them to judo because he's learning good things, you know, meaning good lessons for life, for success in life. And when you can do that, then you can start to charge real dollars for judo. And it should be, you know, it's the only way the clubs are going to succeed is to do it full time, to invest in it, and to structure your dojo, not just as a place of excellence, but that caters to the client that's coming in the door. You know, so one of the things we do is we have separate classes for everybody. There's no 5-year-old white belt on the mat with a brown belt who's done judo for 6 years, right? We've got beginner classes for beginner kids. They want to be with other kids that are new. They don't want to feel odd and be, you know, in a class with an old guy. They want to be with kids their age. So we have age-appropriate, skill-appropriate classes at our dojo at all times. Adults are with adults, kids are with kids, intermediate students are with intermediate students, and people like, you know, the Travises and the Kaylas and the black belts that want to train hard, they never interact with the recreational students unless it's a good community lesson that we do once a month, focused on some sort of leadership theme that where they can interact in a fun way and where the little kids can look up to the stars, you know, and start to sort of train like them and get to know them. But we've got to start to segment and teach our dojos how to run professional dojos and how to, you know, be businessmen. You know, because unless people do this as a business, it's always going to be a hobby. They're always going to do it when they're tired. They're always going to have excuses as to why they can't grow their academy. And at the end of the day, without professional people doing this sport, 24/7, we're never going to succeed. There's not going to be enough dojos for people to go to ever try judo if they wanted to do it. So we need to fix the dojo system for sure. Teach people how to run a successful business. And listen, you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. It's already done for you. How do you sign up a new student? How do you ask them to behave? What's an introductory lesson look like? What's the expectation of the mom and the child when they're in the academy? How are they supposed to behave? How do you structure your classes? So that you teach beginner stuff. What's the curriculum you're following? Does everybody know what they need to do to earn their next rank? Is there a path for everybody? Is there a path to get them to become teachers at your school? Instead of training people to become athletes who go win medals, who then can do nothing with the medals they've won, why don't we teach students to become teachers so they can go open a dojo someday and make a living for themselves? And that's what these other martial arts are experts at doing. And really, that's reason why you see like little associations grow from 1 dojo to 3 dojos to 7 dojos. In one area, you'll see the same martial arts school in, 8 different locations. It's because they all come back to the head school. They're promoted under the head sensei, and it's like a hierarchy. And, unfortunately, judo doesn't have any of those, but it's something we need to sort of try to implement and call them American Judo schools, call them whatever you want, but we have to sort of come up with an academy structure and teach people how to run and structure professional dojos so we can get more members, and more members translates to more money. And when you have a higher paying clientele, those people now can afford to go to tournaments when they want to go to tournaments. You don't have to fundraise for them all the time. We have to get out of the YMCAs, get out of the poor people, dojo. It's good to do it altruistic and it's good to help them, but that has to be supplemental to the professional dojos. Those places expose people to judo and hopefully they go join clubs somewhere else. But when you're always catering to the poor, you're up against all odds all the time, because number one, people don't truly appreciate the sport, in my opinion, if they're not paying for it. I have more people staying at my school paying more money than when I gave it away for $35 a month or $50 a month. So our average tuition right now at our school is $179 a month. Everybody pays $179. If you come 2 days a week, you pay $179. If you come 6 days a week, you pay $179. Come as many times, get as good as you want, but it's $179 a month. And that includes your in-club tournaments that we run every 2 months. It includes your promotion fees. We don't nickel and dime you on anything else, but that's what you pay for at the academy. We had 240 people before COVID. So we've proven it can work and how to run a successful school. So that's kind of the dojo system that I think we need to sort of get to. And listen, if I have 240 students and we had 10 other dojos with 240 students, that'd be 1/4 of U.S. judo memberships in this country. Well, it's only 10 dojos. So the numbers multiply quick if you do it right. We've got some really good other business programs that are going on right now at the academy as well. My daughter started, and I took the idea from somebody else. I was at somebody else's dojo. I saw them do it. And when my daughter graduated from college, she didn't know what she wanted to do for a living. I said, you know what? I get asked all the time how young I start kids in judo. And the average age normally is like 5 years old, because that's what the attention span of a normal judo class, that's what a kid can take. We take him at 5. He can be on the mat without his mom, without his dad at 5 years old, and he can learn basic judo. But I get so many requests from kids that are 2, 3, and 4 years old. Can my kid do judo? Why do we turn them away? So I had my daughter start a toddler program where the mom or dad comes on the mat with the kid and they learn judo together. And it's a Sunday experience or a weekend experience. It's a 30-minute class, and the place is packed with kids. We do no more than 10 kids and their parents in a class at one time. She had 6 classes back to back to back on Sunday morning, 30-minute sessions, 60 kids doing that from ages 2 to 4. And now it's only starting the program, for a year and a half. So you can expose a kid that young to judo. What do you think is going to happen when they graduate through the ranks and they get a couple of belts and now they turn 4 or 5? Are they going to go to T-ball, or are they going to go somewhere else, or they're going to stick with judo? right now we're seeing they're sticking with judo. They're going to our Tough Tigers program at 5 and 6. Kids have already graduated because they've been in it for a year and a half. Now they're moving up to the next level, and they're making judo one of their main sports. So that's another idea that I have to maybe sort of introduce to other clubs. Easily replicable. It translates to good dollars, good revenue for the instructors. You just got to know how to run the classes and structure the classes. But we can teach them how to bring them in the door and do everything. So that's on the club side. I think we go back to the athlete side. Our athletes are as talented as they've ever been. I do believe that we have tough kids, strong kids, good kids in this country that can still win medals, but we're severely behind the 8 ball right now because, as I said, the rest of the world is very organized. You've got Russia right now pouring $20 million a year into their sports program. I talked to the junior coach of the Russian team. He has 8 full-time coaches under him. He's the Russian junior national coach. He has 8 full-time coaches under him being paid professionally to take the junior kids around the world and get them better at junior. We have no junior coaches that are paid. We have a lot of volunteers that all mean well, that all try to help out as best as possible. But we've got this huge country. All of our kids are fragmented. They don't train together very often. They only come together with the national coach maybe 1 or 2 times a year. And it costs a ton of money to go overseas and compete. And we're not getting a lot of experience overseas. So we're just pouring money into something that's not producing, any medals or not helping our athletes develop to their full potential. And I think we need to fix that. We need to go back to teaching basic judo. We need to have lots of training camps in this country. We need to get our kids together often and focus on judo development in this country. Get the kids a lot more matches, a lot more fights in this country. Because I remember when I was a kid, I'd go to junior nationals. I'd have 8, 9 fights at a junior national championships. And because the divisions were big. Today, you have some kids, they win 1 or 2 matches, then they're national champs. There's not enough development going on. There's not enough matches happening. There's not enough fights. Everybody thinks they got to make a team and go to the highest level, but it's really not about that. It's about developing your judo. It's about learning good judo. It's about fixing your mistakes. It's about competing, 80 to 100 matches a year. That's how you get better at the sport. It's about going to training camps and being exposed to higher levels of judo frequently enough so that you can learn new stuff. One of the things my dad did for me when I was a teenage boy was he exposed me to the best athletes we had in this country when I was a teenager. So he sent me to Erwin Cohen as a coach and learn from Erwin. He sent me to Pat Burris, to learn from Pat. He sent me places to train and learn from Kevin Asano or Ed Liddy, or he exposed me to the people that had won. He wanted me to see, touch, and feel those athletes and see how they trained and learn from them. And I remember, when I look back at my career, of all the camps I went to that were run right here in this country, whether it was at the Olympic Training Center or was there in New York somewhere or, Oklahoma, wherever I went, Chicago, I was at camps all the time getting better, doing 10 rounds of randori at a camp and then twice a day doing that, and just lots of volume of judo. And I think that our kids don't train enough and don't get enough volume of judo. They certainly don't get enough fights. They don't get enough competitions in. But on top of that, they're not getting exposed to enough good judo and consistently to that same judo so that they can improve. And when I look back at my career and the techniques that I learned, I learned one-handed taio from Mike Swain. I learned taio toshi from Neil Adams. I learned split the legs technique from Pat Burris. I learned Yoko Tomoe Nagi from Kevin Asano. Like, I can tell you who I learned what technique I do from. My one-handed ochi from my father. Juji Gatami from Neil Adams. Like, that was all from going to judo camps and learning, from good people. And I don't think there's enough camps going on in this country, not enough national camps anywhere where the country comes together and trains together and learns. So that's on the athlete side. I feel like that's a problem. There's not enough planning and enough cohesiveness in the plan to bring these kids to the right level. And quite honestly, because the rest of the world has gotten so much more competitive it's ever more important that we approach this in a professional way and we find the money to hire staff to do this full time. Otherwise, we may never have a kid that can wins again. Because the odds monetarily, financially, they're up against a world of hurt. From a numbers standpoint and from a competitive standpoint, we don't have the tough kids for them to fight often enough. We don't have enough camps and opportunities for them to get better. Kids can't stay home at their home dojo and expect to beat the rest of the world. One of the things that we're also not doing because of the new IJF tour and the way they have it structured to qualify for the Olympics, our top athletes now have to compete in a minimum of 10 events a year, a minimum of 10, because you get your 5 best results per year. So you've got to at least go to 10 events a year to produce 5 results, if not 15. So you're going to go to 15 international trips. That's 15 is at 1,000, maybe 3,000 a trip just for yourself to go. That's 30 to 45 grand to try to qualify for an Olympics. All right. On top of that, you don't develop at those tournaments. Those are just tournaments. The only way you get better is you got to spend time overseas, training in Japan, training in Europe, or training with very high level people very, very often. Jim Bregman is a perfect example. He didn't win by staying in America. He lived in Japan. Mike Swain didn't win by staying in America. He trained in Japan often. I've been to Japan over 40 different times in my life to train or to compete. 40 different times. And sometimes it was 6 months. Many times it was 6 weeks. But I never went to Japan just for a tournament and came home. I spent 3 weeks after the tournament there training to get better. So our kids are not, our up and coming athletes, they're not doing this. They don't have the money to do it on top of all the tournaments they have to go to. So our athletes at the highest level aren't developing because they're not spending the time competing and training at the highest level to get better. And more importantly, if you don't have a coach that truly understands how to make you better, to show you what you're doing wrong while you're at those events, you don't know why you're getting thrown. You don't know why you're losing. You don't know what things to correct. You don't know what you don't know. So it's not just about going there. It's about having a coach that oversees and watches and critiques and writes down comments and studies things with you and helps you work on things while you're there to get better. And we just don't have that right now in our country. And it's nobody's fault. You can't expect people to volunteer, months of their time just because we need to win. I mean, you've got to pay somebody to do it. It's a full-time job at this point. The rest of the world is paying full-time staff. It's time that the United States, if you want to win at the international level, you've got to pay a coach full-time. It's got to be his full-time job, and he's got to have a staff that helps him do it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Because like I said, you're at least going to 10 events, not including training camps. What coach can leave their home 10 times for 10 weeks, plus go to camps and clinics, plus arrange competitions, plus go to for free? Just can't happen. They got to make a living. So, there's a lot. The other thing I think that, there's lots of things that's not going on in this country. And one of the biggest things, in my opinion, in the way to make this sport successful is publicity. We don't do enough marketing of our sport in this country. And we've got to start to market judo to the American people. And it's so much easier to do now than it was back in my day because everything can be done online. You don't have to buy TV commercial. You don't have to buy TV time anymore. Everything can be live streamed. We've got to start live streaming our sport. We've got to start promoting our sport to the masses. Listen, grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, they're putting on shows today. They're putting on shows. So dual meets in wrestling, marquee matchups. You've got Olympic champ Jordan Burroughs going against Kyle Dake or going against David Taylor. They're calling each other out. They're creating attention on the sport, and they're fighting domestically. We don't need our kids to go overseas and win medals to promote our sport in this country. We need to start focusing on the way we run our events and start doing events for marketing purposes. We can make stars out of our young kids today just by getting them on TV. And I don't mean TV, I mean live stream internet. Let's put the best kid from Florida up against the best kid from Chicago, and let's put it on TV and let's show those matches. Let's put a fight card together of judo, and let's make it exciting. Let's live stream it for everybody to see. Let's start promoting it. Let's start, like, these are the things. We're going to start to build stars in this country. Listen, the guys in jiu-jitsu that are these big name guys, they were nobodies a few years ago. You never heard of them. But why are they somebody? They're putting them on TV. They're marketing themselves. They're marketing these people. They're making them somebodies. And even wrestling is doing a great job right now with these Who's Number One events. They're getting high school kids and they're saying, who's the best kid in the country? Well, we're going to invite these kids together and we're going to wrestle off and we're going to see who's the best kid. We could be doing a lot of stuff like that very cheaply, where we bring the best 4 kids from the United States into a little mini tournament and let's do a Who's Number One and make it exciting, and let's put some cool colored gis on them. Let's change the way we compete in this country. Let's change the rules. We have to stop following what the IJF says this is how you have to run your sport. No, we're America. We've got to do things different. We've got to do things smarter. We're not funded by the government. We don't have judo in every school system. We've got to, we can't rent out these big venues and have mat areas that are 8 meters by 8 meters with a 4-meter safety zone. And I got to spend $50,000 bringing in new mats to run a local tournament. It's ridiculous. Put them on 4x4s, 6x6s. Put 12 mats on the floor. Get the kids in, get the kids out. Let them fight. Let them have fun. Change the experience. Live stream it. Create a show at the event that everybody wants to watch, and make some key matchups happen of just some of the best guys in America. Who's the best in the States? Give them a nice big belt when they win, and then make them retain the belt later. Like, let's make it fun. Let's make it exciting. And that's the problem we have. We're doing everything by the IJF rules. Kids are getting reamed because their gis don't fit properly, or they're all the way. It's a kids tournament. Like, come on, guys. Just let them fight. Let the black belt go out and referee the match. Who cares? Why do we got to have, a care system, and we got to have, all these protocols in place that hold up the events, that make them longer, that make them more chaotic, that give a bad experience to the people that come? Let them fight, let them have fun, and let them go home, right? And let, put on a show afterwards so the kid wants to come back to an event later if you run it. So put them in small venues. We've got our events in judo today. I didn't realize how bad it was until, so Kayla Harrison had an agent. She was Olympic champion already, and before the Olympics in 2016, her agent said, Jimmy, Kayla has to fight in the national championships. I said, why? You don't want her to fight in the nationals, guy. What is that going to do for her? First of all, she has nobody to fight. Second of all, when she gets there, it's not going to be on TV. Nobody's going to give a crap. Because she has to be national champion. I said, why? He said, because in every sport in this nation, it means something to be national champion. And when I go to write a press release that Kayla just won the U.S. Judo National Championships, they'll put it in the paper. I've got to get her publicity. I've got to get her press. So I said, okay, well, we'll bring her, but you're going to be underwhelmed. All right? So he said, no, we're doing it, and these are the reasons we're doing it, and we're going to invite the cameras, and we're going to get her as much TV exposure. I can't just have her fight in the Olympics. I got to have her fight in other stuff too. So I brought him to the event, and it was this huge convention center in Texas. There were, 6 big mat areas, all professionally set up. The stands were I think there were four bleachers high stands. And he walked in and he looked around and he was like, where is everybody? I said, guy, there was the 5 or 6 little booths set up there. There was nobody in the stands. It was just all the fighters and coaches and referees. And he goes, where are all the athletes? I said, this is it. There was 200 and something athletes at that national championships. If you look just the senior divisions, there were 200 and something athletes. There was 5 girls in Kayla's division, including her. Luckily, she had a round robin, because if it was a 4-man bracket or something, she had 2 fights. So at least she got 4 matches. But, we got TV time. She won the nationals, but he was astonished. The tournament was over in 2 hours. because they didn't even have a finals that time. They just went right through from 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, done. Tournament's over. Then they started the Masters tournament. But he just couldn't believe there was nobody in the stands. We've got this huge vacant convention center because we have these strict restrictions on how big the mats have to be. And we're running the event and getting it over with in 2 hours when we're not given like a really good intimate experience with people that care and watch. And it's just not done well. And we definitely have to change a lot of things in this country. But we need vision, we need leadership, we need people that are passionate, and we got to get people who are naysayers and people that are negative and people that have all this baggage from past politics. We got to move them aside and say, guys, you've had your chance. You've fought it out for all this long. Keep fighting it off over there on the periphery, but this sport has to go in another direction. We've got to flip the whole thing upside down, dump it on its head, and say we're going to do things differently, and this is the reason we're going to do things differently. And if you're a doer, get on board and let's do it together. And if you're not a doer and you're a naysayer and say it can't be done that way, it should, then go away, keep doing it the broken way because it ain't working, and we're going to do things differently. We're going to start being professional. We're going to teach people how to make money. We're going to teach everybody how to make money. The only way this sport can be successful in the future is if we have 100 people that are paid from the organization. We've got an event marketing person. We've got, an event person. We've got marketing person. We've got a professional coaching staff. We've got, a senior staff, a cadet staff, a junior staff with assistants behind them. We've got professional people running dojos in this country. We've got state or regional, people that are making money, investing their time, planning, showing people how to run the dojos, running conventions, driving revenue into the sport so that we can run good events, so that we can put on good shows, so that we can put money into marketing. We've got to deliver value to the members. We've got to start viewing them as people that genuinely do care about judo, but they don't know what they don't know and they need help. We've got to give people access to information. And when I say professional, I mean people have got to share what's going on. What's going on with the budget? What's going on? What are we doing with the money? How are we spending it? How's my kid going to qualify and get there? And listen, if people know where money's going and who it's going towards and how they can be a part of something where they potentially, if we have 100 people that full-time jobs in this country running the sport of judo, people that aren't doing a good job, the kid knows that, man, there's a path for me someday to make a full-time living from the sport of judo. I can take that guy's job in marketing, or I can, be the event manager and the event coordinator and what have you. But we've just got to do a lot of different things that spark some energy into this country and that change things up drastically.
I think you've summed it up very well, Jimmy.
And I didn't plan for this. I have so many ideas in my head and so many things I want this sport to be. And listen, it's not about me. None of this is about me. I don't need judo. Judo made me who I am. Judo made me a very successful person, a very hardworking person, a very passionate person. It's taught me how to pivot and do things, professionally. It taught me how to get knocked down and get back up and learn from my mistakes, try to challenge what's going on in business and do it differently. But I currently run 3 very successful businesses. I'm a president of Fuji Mats. We went from 0 to where we are today. And I'm not going to talk numbers because I'm not a bragger, but we're doing very successful with a small group of people. We're global now. We've got a good business. We've got, 10 people working full time on the Fuji Mats business, and it's successful. We have another company, Fuji Sports, Hadashida Sports, another very successful business. I helped grow it from where it was to where it is today. We employ about 20 people on the Fuji Sports side of the business. Most of them are black belts that used to be a part of my academy, or they have some connection to judo. They're making judo their full-time job. I give loyal people, hardworking people roles within the company. They've gone to school, they got their education, and they're helping the company be successful. And then on top of that, I have the dojo that's a successful business. I only like being a part of successful things, and I only like taking opportunities that I can succeed in. But I'm passionate about judo. I am in fear of the sport becoming extinct in this country. And I don't say that lightly. We talked about the heydays of maybe the 80s, but back then, the people that ran professional dojos and they did it full time had successful dojos. I think about Cohen's dojo, very successful. They did it full time. They did it as a living. They produced good athletes. They had champions. You had Willie Cahill in California, ran it as a professional. That's what he did for a living, Willie. He produced good athletes. He had a good, thriving community. He had good, large membership that paid their dues, that helped grow the organization. You had Yanni Aneska on the East Coast, ran a professional dojo. His judo and karate school was his full-time job, produced great athletes. All the Olympians came out of all of those centers. Those people did judo full-time. And there's oodles of others. I'm just naming a few, but, that's how the sport grew. Professional coaches, big dojos, and full-time. And that ended up producing good athletes. And they knew how to teach judo. They knew good judo. And I have our top not able to stay anymore because they can't make a living from the sport. So we just spent $1 million on Travis Stevens or $2 million on Travis and Kayla and Marty, and through the years, right? That's what we invested in them. $100,000 a year for 8 years, $800,000 an athlete times 3 athletes, $2.4 million. What are they doing today? They're working other jobs. They can't make a living in judo. So Kayla's fighting MMA for a living. Marty's running, doing marketing for an internet company. She's a marketing guru. She's using her education to make money, but she's not giving back to our sport because she can't make a living from it. She teaches some clinics, but we just washed her away. We've got to find a way for these people to stay in the sport and give back and have a job afterwards.
Jimmy, we have a few questions before we are running out of time.
Okay.
So let me start at the top of the question list. Why do BJJ clubs practice through COVID, but judo does not? That was the first question.
Okay, so there's a couple of reasons. It goes back to the beginning. How does that jiu-jitsu instructor make his money? He makes his money from his students paying. His full-time job is being a jiu-jitsu instructor. That's how he feeds his family. So, how's he gonna make a living if he shuts down his school? He's not gonna shut down his school. He's gonna find a way to run his academy through COVID. He's gonna keep the debt because he actually pays for his own rent. He actually has a standalone facility, and he took all the risk. I'm all chips in, and I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu full time. So in order to feed my family, I got to keep my doors open. I got to pay my bills. So what? I'm going to work my tail off, and I'm going to dedicate my time to figure out a way to run my Jiu-Jitsu academy through COVID. I'm going to run social distance classes. I'm going to section it off. I'm going to let 10 people come in at a time. I'm still going to charge the same tuition because I'm giving them my time, but I'm going to have to run 2 or 3 times as many classes as I did before because I got to separate my students in this way. That's one way. The other thing, he's going to maybe teach some Zoom classes as well for the people that are uncomfortable coming into the dojo. We're going to teach them at home. We're going to give them drills to do at home. We're going to, still keep them on track for their promotions as long as they're participating in the Zoom classes. No different than I did at my academy. I kept my academy open through COVID unless we were mandated to shut down where they said only essential businesses can run. We had to pivot. We had to keep our doors open. The guy that runs my dojo, that's his full-time job. I pay him a full-time salary to run the school. That's what he does for a living. So he's got to run the Zoom classes. He's got to run social distance classes. And he's got to keep the doors open and pay the bills so he can make a living for his family. So it's out of necessity. On the flip side, because judo is a hobby, people can shut their doors, right? Oh, I'm going to do my judo club after I get done my full-time job. Well, you're still paying your bills from your full-time job, so you can close down your dojo. You don't need the revenue. And you're so proud of the fact that you don't make any money from judo, it doesn't matter to you. And because it's not your space and you're not renting it and you're not on the hook for the bills, The YMCA says, sorry, you got to shut down. You're a judo academy. You can't do judo because we control your destiny. You don't control your destiny. So a lot of dojos have had to shut down because they do them out of school systems. They do them out of YMCAs. They do them out of church groups. They're not allowed to do it. Whereas the jiu-jitsu instructor says, no way, man. If that little store can open, I can open. I'm a business and this is how I make my living. So that's how they do it.
Okay. How many assistant instructors, Jimmy, do you have at your dojo?
So, good question. I mean, you want to get as many as you can. So I guess when we're not doing COVID, I have a full-time program director at my school who gets a full-time salary to run my academy. I have a head instructor who teaches all of the classes in conjunction with that program director. He teaches all the classes. I have an assistant instructor who gets paid to be an assistant in all the recreational classes. And then I, myself, or Travis teaches the elite class. We run the competition team training or what have you during the class. So myself and Travis, my dad's a volunteer helping out on the mat. You know, he doesn't, I just pay for his gas there and back. So he gets a stipend for $500 to show up a month to help out the dojo. But, you know, so it's Riley, Ryan, Isaac, me, Travis, my father. And then listen, we have other black belts that just help out, that come on the mat and just help out. And then we also have a leadership group of kids who are in a program to help other people. And they're required to help out one day a week where they assist and instruct in little kids' classes and help control the kids and tie belts and show some techniques and stuff like that. So we have some people that help out. But paid at the school, we have five people on the payroll whose job it is to teach judo and get paid to be there and help run the school.
Okay, we have a last question. In your opinion, Jimmy, how can we professionalize judo coaches and professional judo teachers to adjust their thinking and teach to recruit and retain recreational people? And out of that recreational pool, we can build a larger more athletic group. How do you change the mindset that so many instructors have, which contributed, in my opinion, to the total collapse of the infrastructure of judo in the United States? We're at the precipice of total collapse.
Agreed. For a lot of reasons. Financially, you know, we're at risk of losing all of our USOC funding. If we do that, the sport will die. That's number one. Number two, memberships are down, and they're going to continue to stay down for a while, which is going to handicap the organization. We need a shot of money into the organization in a big way. And the only thing that might save our sport, to be honest with you, is that the Olympics is coming to LA in 2028. And the Olympic Committee will invest in all sports. And judo will be one of those sports. So we're going to get lucky because the Olympics is coming to LA in 2028. And it's also going to be a time when the U.S. team is going to have a full team on the mat in 2028. So we better get our crap in a pile quickly so they don't get skunked at the Olympics and have no medals. You know, so we've got a quick pivot and turnaround to sort of get the young generation ready to go in 7 short years to compete on the Olympic stage. And that's a big task. But in terms of making professional coaches, there has to be a willingness. Number one, you got to let people say, hey, who wants to learn how to run a professional dojo in this country? Who wants to learn? Whoever raises their hand, when you raise your hand, realize that you are now going to commit to doing judo full time. Yes, you're going to have to kind of phase out your existing job or however you make money and phase in and put all your chips in and say, I'm doing this full time. This is what I'm going to do. And like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And listen, I spent, and when I say tens of thousands, I'm not kidding you. I spent tens of thousands of dollars learning from consultants, learning from other professional martial arts people, how they did it. I listened to everything because I ran a school like I thought I was supposed to run a school. My classes were an hour and a half long. For a recreational student, when you run a class for an hour and a half, they look at the clock at least 5, 6, 7 times during class and when's this going to be over? because as a little kid, they get bored if it's that long. As an adult, they can't make it an hour and a half. They haven't moved off their couch for 10 years. They're coming to the dojo to get in shape. They can't go from 0 to an hour and a half of judo. And they certainly can't do randori. So, we've got to change the way we run our classes and the way we teach our students. That's number one. So when you raise your hand, you've got to put all your chips in and say, I'm doing this. Because only when you have skin in the game and it's going to decide whether you make it or break it is when you're really going to go to work and start doing the things you need to do. The last thing a dojo needs is somebody that can teach a class, because you can teach anybody to teach a class. I have purple belts, green belts that can teach better than most black belts. And I'm not lying. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying they can run a better class because they only know how to run a class the way we run a class at our school. Kid has to bow in when they come in the dojo and show respect. They have to put their sandals away in a specific area. They cannot play around on the mats before class. They line up, and conduct themselves professionally. They step onto the mat, they bow. They say a creed that they're going to commit to judo and use their judo in a positive way to benefit their mind and their body. They're going to do exercises, warm up, move around the mat, get a good drills, go back into line, sit and seiza anza, be disciplined students. They're going to learn good judo. They're going to leave there refreshed, excited. Class was only 45 minutes. They didn't look at the clock one time. And they're going to leave the class saying, when can I come back, sensei? Right? You got to give them that experience, but you've got to learn how to run a professional dojo. And it's not about the teaching, but it's about how you run the class, how you run your dojo. It's got to be a place of excellence, and you have to deliver on what your promise was. So we promised that in 6 months, we'll make any kid more confident. We'll make any kid more physically fit. We'll change their life. We're going to teach them how to set goals. We're going to teach them how to achieve those goals. We're going to make them better students in school, right? We're going to make them better people at home and more respectful to their parents. The parents can use the sensei as, hey, don't make me tell sensei. Like, you've got to use the dojo as a way to impact those kids' lives and to change behaviors. And when you do that, you can become a professional school. But then you've got to go out, you've got to market your school. You've got to go to do demonstrations. You've got to get out in public in a nice uniform and hand out cards and introduce yourself to other people. You've got to run some events internally that bring people into your school so they can see what a professional environment you run. You've got to celebrate people's promotions. When they get promoted, you got to make a big deal out of it. And you've got to invite mom and dad and grandpa to see Timmy get his his new yellow belt, put him up on the podium and make him feel like a champion and get pictures. And they go out to dinner after, just like dance recitals do, just like gymnastics does. You put on little in-house shows and you promote judo and what a positive place this is for my kid to come. And when you can do that, you can become professional. But it's the back end business. You need to have a software system that you can text all your students. If there's, like today, we had a kid that his sister was tested positive for COVID. Right? So little girl, she's not a judo student, but her brother's a judo student. So the call comes in. Hey, Sensei Pedro, I wanted you to know that Octavio's sister tested positive. He was exposed, but he tested negative, but he was at your dojo Tuesday. We believe the exposure was last Thursday or last Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but he tested negative. I'm just letting you know. Okay, boom, text. Students, please be advised. This particular class, I can reach my students with the touch of a button. Like, you've got to be able to communicate with your students. You've got to be able to tell them, hey, we're running an in-house tournament. Make sure you sign up for the event. We're going to have a great time. Come join us. We throw pizza parties after the in-club tournament. We make it a nice social thing. The dojo has to be this place of positivity, fun, and a place that changes people's lives. And when you do that, you can charge any amount of money you want. And it's not about the Uchimata. It's not about the Sankaku. It's not because I'm an Olympic champion. I am hardly ever at my dojo, except for the elite class. If you come to Pedro's Judo Center, the kid that's in the Little Dragons program, he doesn't know me. The kid that's in the basic program, he doesn't know me. The kid that's in the intermediate program doesn't know me. They've heard of me, And if they, committed to judo for a long time, or they, they come to a special event that we invite them to, they get to experience and learn from me. But they only know Sensei Riley. They only know Sensei Ryan. They only know Sensei Casey. They don't know me. I'm just the old guy.
No, you're not. I'm the old guy.
Okay. Well,
Jimmy, I want to thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure for us to chat. I think you've provided a lot of stimulus, a lot of interesting information, and perhaps the rickety old judo infrastructure can be rebuilt with some of your wonderful insights. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. I'm not going to hold my breath, Jim.
No, I'm not going to hold mine either.
Okay.
But we'll have a good time.
All right. My pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.